The first thing, it's a franchise that's lain dormant for a while. How do you maintain continuity, and what elements do you think make Fallout Fallout?
So the continuity really, we look at Fallout 1, obviously, as, okay, this is the bar for the tone of the world, what you do and don't do. And we made our list of rules as far as, here is the timeline for when things happened, here are our do's and don'ts. And so, everything we do, we kind of check against that in terms of, does this make sense? We do have a lot of new stuff in the game. And so we, vet that through our, does it make sense? How cool is it? And how does it fit in? So it's not that hard to maintain it as far as the world, its lore, its look, and things like that.
One thing you've done, though, that's a radical departure is sort of change the perspective of the game. Instead of being sort of an isometric kind of tactical game, it's got a little more bit of an action kind of shooter presentation. Why did you decide to make that change?
There's still some tactical stuff in it. It's really what excites us in terms of what's going to have the biggest impact to you when you're playing the game and you're this character. So that's, the main reason for first person is that, I want you to touch the world and make it feel real. And I just think the emotional impact of that is much greater. But then, you can really pull the camera back in third person and play it that way if you want to get a better sense of your surroundings. So we've spent a lot of time on the third person over-the-shoulder stuff. But then VATS does allow you to, as soon as someone shoots you, just go into VATS and what's the situation? And if you want to take care of it tactically in VATS, you can. And if you just want to use VATS just to check out what the situation is and then leave it and go run and gun the guys, if that's more fun for you, so be it. But we're pretty careful to make it even that. I think there's a difference between first person and action. I think people confuse them. Whereas, what kind of behavior are you rewarding? Are you rewarding a person who's got really good reflexes, or is that just, you're just presenting the game that way? And so for us, we, try very hard. It's like, that's how the game's presented, but it's not rewarding you like as a Twitch player, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. You're building this game on the foundation of Oblivion. What did you learn from Oblivion in terms of AI and difficulty scaling, things like that you've had to adapt in this new version?
What have we learned from Oblivion? Everything. So, Oblivion's a pretty big undertaking. It's a new platform, all new tech. And so, with the first try with anything, you're gonna make some hits and you're gonna have some misses. So, in terms of the technology, we did a pretty good job. We did feel there's a lot of things we could improve. That we've rewritten a lot of stuff for Fallout. In terms of AI, a lot more. The rating AI system, which has a really, really good base, how it presents itself in the game, we did have to dial back a lot. So now, with this, A, we improved the system with lots of new features, and then B, in how we use it and how conversations happen, what's meaningful to you as the player, as opposed to people just, walking by, as I mentioned, getting them doing stuff on screen that has meaning to the situation. And so, multiple things help that. The scale of Fallout being a bit smaller helps a lot as far as NPCs, and then, just us being able to, well, here's what Oblivion did well, here's what we want to improve. And bring that to light in this game. Excuse me, hold on.
I'm interested in the karma system. As I've talked with the guys at BioWare, I've talked to Peter Molyneux, that their games reward only good or evil behavior, and don't really so much allow the player to role play something more complicated. But you guys are actually focusing on making the neutral path just as compelling. How are you doing that?
So the neutral path stuff we kind of came to after playing the game for a while. We only had the good and evil, and we have a lot of gray situations, so people were dealing with stuff. They deal with this situation evil, then this one nice, and then evil and nice, nice, evil, and they end up very neutral. So we want the other characters in the world to react to you if you're in that spectrum. So there's services you get, there are certain NPCs that might join you if you're neutral versus good versus evil, other groups that might come after you or not come after you if you're on those spectrums, and then when you're in the middle, you're in a safe zone as far as titles you get and achievements, and we're still working on that, because honestly the the neutral scale, it's more of a recent development for us after playing the game a bunch. Like, we need to do this. So we kind of, we have our laundry list right now, and obviously a much bigger list for good and evil right now, but it's something that we're going to keep building on, because we do find ourselves, when we play it, we're often in that zone.
Well, having fans who are so rabid for the game is kind of a blessing and a curse, and reviving a franchise is always a little risky. Is there anything that you're particularly worried about with this game, or that you feel like, wow, we're really taking a risk here, I wonder if it's going to pay off?
I think the combat system's a bit risky. I mean, it's one of those things where a lot of people might think the game is something it's not. They might get it and think they're getting a shooter, and then they're like, this isn't a shooter. I don't understand it. But that's their fault, not mine. Other things that are risky. I don't know. I mean, I think with anything, it's very subjective. That there are people that are going to go, oh, I think that looks awesome, and people will go, that's not what I want. At the end of the day, we just got to do what excites us the most and what we would really want to play. And we have lots of really strong opinions here on all sides of the fence. And so I guess my only concern is that people won't really get it for what it is, that they might confuse it with something on either end of the spectrum too much, and then when they buy it, they're let down in some way that we didn't expect. And that's happened before to us with Elder Scrolls stuff. So whenever someone, they read about it and they, like, I really want that, and they go buy it, and then it didn't do what they thought it would do, that does bother me a lot. So.
Well, you mentioned things that excite you. Like, what excites you about this game? What is it that really gets you going when dealing with the project?
This game in particular. I mean, without being cheesy, like, it's got style. Do you know what I mean? It has a tone and a style to it. It's what I always loved about the first games, that just, I think very few things in entertainment have. Not just its particular style, but really good style. It knows what it is. And if I could say something negative about the Elder Scrolls is, some of our stuff has had more style than others, and maybe it just becomes a maybe too generic fantasy. Whereas I can look at an image from Fallout and instantly go, Fallout. Do you know what I mean? Whereas if I showed someone an Oblivion thing, like, well, I don't know, it could be one of 10 fantasy things. So it just, it has that flavor, and it has a uniqueness to the world that you do want to see what's over the next hill. You do want to see, what is the next town about? Because that next town's going to have its own shtick. And even though it's destroyed, it's a bit depressing, in a way, for me, it's very, very inviting. I want to go see, and there's a sense of humor about it as well. I mean, obviously the gameplay and all that stuff, but I don't think that in itself separates it enough from, a lot of games. I think the main thing that makes it special is that tone and style.